You've been carrying too much. For too long. And somewhere deep inside you know it. You wake up tired. You go to bed exhausted. And in between, you keep pushing, keep trying, keep telling yourself that if you just work a little harder, love a little more, give a little extra, then maybe you'll finally feel at peace. But the peace never comes, does it? Because the weight keeps growing. The expectations keep rising. And you keep shrinking under the pressure of trying to be everything to everyone. Let me tell you something true, something your soul already knows but your mind keeps fighting. Peace doesn't come from doing more. Peace comes when you finally accept your limits. When you stop pretending you're made of steel and admit you're made of flesh and bone and a heart that bleeds when it's been stretched too thin. This isn't about being weak. This is about being honest. This is about being human. You weren't created to carry the world. You weren't designed to fix everyone's problems, to meet every need, to never say no, to never rest, to never break. God Himself rested on the seventh day. He, who holds the universe in His hands, chose to rest. And if the Creator rested, what makes you think you don't need to? What makes you believe that your worth is measured by how much you can endure before you collapse? There's a lie you've been living with, maybe for years, maybe for decades. The lie that says you have to prove yourself. That says love is earned through sacrifice until there's nothing left of you. That says if you stop, if you slow down, if you admit you can't do it all, then somehow you've failed. But that's not truth. That's not love. That's not God's voice. That's the voice of a world that takes and never says thank you, never says enough, never says rest now, beloved, you've done well. Think about the people you love most in this world. Would you want them to live the way you're living? Would you want them to push until they break? Would you want them to ignore their pain, their tiredness, their limits, just to prove they're strong enough? No. You wouldn't. You'd tell them to rest. You'd tell them they matter more than their productivity. You'd tell them that being human means having limits, and that's okay. So why do you demand from yourself what you'd never demand from those you love? If these words are touching something in you right now, if you feel seen in this moment, I want to invite you to subscribe and leave a like on this video. Not for me, but so this message can reach others who need to hear it today. Someone out there is carrying too much, just like you. And maybe, just maybe, these words will be the permission they've been waiting for to finally let go. Your body has been trying to tell you something. The headaches that won't go away. The tightness in your chest. The sleepless nights. The constant fatigue that no amount of coffee can fix. These aren't just random symptoms. This is your body speaking the language it knows, trying to tell you what your mind refuses to accept. You have limits. And those limits aren't a flaw in your design. They're part of your design. They're there to protect you, to guide you, to remind you that you're not infinite. But you've been taught to ignore these signals, haven't you? You've been taught that feeling tired means you're lazy. That needing help means you're inadequate. That saying no means you're selfish. And so you override every warning sign your body gives you. You push through the pain. You smile when you want to cry. You say yes when everything in you is screaming no. And you call this strength. But it's not strength. It's self-betrayal. Real strength isn't about how much you can carry. Real strength is knowing when to put the weight down. Real strength is looking at your life honestly and saying, this is too much, I need help, I can't do this alone. Real strength is understanding that God gave you limits not to frustrate you, but to teach you dependence, to teach you trust, to teach you that you were never meant to walk this road by yourself. There's a beautiful thing that happens when you finally accept your limits. The world doesn't fall apart. The people who truly love you don't leave. The sky doesn't collapse. What happens instead is this. You start to breathe again. You start to feel again. You start to remember who you are underneath all the roles you've been playing, underneath all the masks you've been wearing, underneath all the weight you've been carrying that was never yours to carry in the first place. You start to understand that your value isn't in what you do. It's in who you are. You are loved not because you're useful, but because you exist. You are precious not because you're perfect, but because you're human. And being human means you get tired. You make mistakes. You need rest. You need help. You need grace. Not just for others but for yourself. Think about Jesus. He had all the power in the universe. He could have healed every sick person in every village. He could have fed every hungry mouth. He could have worked day and night without stopping. But he didn't. He withdrew. He rested. He said no. He prioritized. He chose 12 disciples, not 12,000. He focused on a few, not the masses. He understood something that we've forgotten. Even in ministry, even in love, even in purpose, there are limits. And honoring those limits isn't selfish. It's sacred. When you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to yourself. You lose your joy. You lose your peace. You lose the very thing that made you want to help others in the first place. You become a shell, going through the motions, saying the right words, doing the right things, but feeling empty inside. And that emptiness, that exhaustion, that constant sense of not being enough, it's not because you're failing. It's because you're trying to be God. And you're not God. You're His beloved child. And beloved children are allowed to have limits. Peace comes when you stop fighting against your humanity and start embracing it. When you stop apologizing for needing rest. When you stop feeling guilty for saying no. When you stop measuring your worth by how much you can endure. Peace comes when you look at your life and make the hard, brave choice to release what you were never meant to hold. Maybe you're afraid that if you stop, everything will fall apart. Maybe you're afraid that if people see your limits, they'll stop loving you. Maybe you're afraid that rest is the same as giving up. But let me tell you what fear doesn't want you to know. The people who only love you for what you do for them don't really love you at all. The responsibilities that can't survive without you controlling every detail were never your responsibilities to begin with. And rest isn't giving up. Rest is trusting God enough to believe that He can hold things together while you catch your breath. You've been so strong for so long. You've held it together when everything was falling apart. You've been the rock everyone leans on. You've sacrificed your own needs for the sake of others over and over again. And that's beautiful. That's honorable. But it's not sustainable. And God never asked you to sustain it forever. He asked you to trust Him, to lean on Him, to let Him carry what you cannot carry, to admit when you've reached your limit and need His strength instead of pretending you have endless strength of your own. There's no shame in being human. There's no failure in having limits. There's only the quiet, gentle invitation from a God who loves you exactly as you are, who sees how tired you've become, who's been waiting for you to stop running long enough to hear Him whisper, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not after you've done more. Not after you've proven yourself. Now. Right now. Just as you are, with all your limits, with all your tiredness, with all your beautiful, fragile humanity. Peace is waiting for you on the other side of acceptance. Not the acceptance of defeat, but the acceptance of truth. The truth that you're human. The truth that you have limits. The truth that those limits are not your enemy, they're your teacher. They're showing you where you end and where God begins. They're showing you that life isn't about doing everything, it's about doing what you're called to do, and trusting God with the rest. So take a breath. A real one. Deep and slow. And as you breathe out, release one thing you've been carrying that was never yours to carry. Just one thing. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to be everything today. You just have to be you. Honest, tired, human, beloved you. And that, more than you know, is enough. You know what happens when you keep pushing past your limits? You don't just get tired. You start to disappear. Little by little, piece by piece, you lose yourself. The things that used to bring you joy don't anymore. The people you love start to feel like obligations. The faith that once filled you with hope starts to feel like just another expectation you can't meet. And somewhere along the way, You look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back at you. That person looks like you, sounds like you, but the light in their eyes is gone. The warmth in their smile has faded. They're still showing up, still performing, still doing all the things they're supposed to do. But they're not really there anymore. They're running on empty, on fumes, on the memory of who they used to be before they gave everything away and forgot to save anything for themselves. This is what happens when we refuse to honor our limits. We don't just burn out. We burn up. Everything that makes us who we are, everything that makes life worth living, it all gets consumed in the fire of trying to be more than we were created to be. And the saddest part? Nobody asked us to do this. We did it to ourselves. We believed the lie that our worth was tied to our usefulness. We believed that love meant erasing ourselves. We believed that faith meant never admitting we're struggling. But God never asked you to erase yourself. He created you. Every part of you. Your personality. Your gifts. Your quirks. Your needs. Your limits. He didn't make a mistake when He made you human. He didn't accidentally forget to give you unlimited energy and endless capacity. Your limits are intentional. They're part of His design. And when you fight against them, you're not fighting against weakness. You're fighting against wisdom. There's a difference between sacrifice and self-destruction. Sacrifice is giving something meaningful for something that matters. Self-destruction is giving everything until there's nothing left, not even yourself. Jesus sacrificed His life, yes. But He didn't spend His ministry trying to be everywhere at once. He didn't heal every person who needed healing. He didn't fix every problem. He focused. He prioritized. He knew His mission. And He knew when to withdraw, when to rest, when to say no to the crowds so He could say yes to the Father. You've been confusing exhaustion with faithfulness. You've been thinking that if you're not completely depleted, you must not be doing enough. But that's not how God works. He doesn't measure your devotion by how empty you are at the end of the day. He measures it by the love in your heart, and you can't love well when you're running on empty. You can't pour into others when your own cup has been dry for months, maybe years. If you're still here, listening to these words, it means something in you is ready to change. Something in you knows you can't keep living this way. Before we go further, I want to ask you to do something simple. Hit that subscribe button and leave a like. Not because I need it, but because this message needs to travel. Someone in your life, someone you haven't even met yet, needs to hear that it's okay to have limits. That it's okay to be human. That peace is possible. Help me get this message to them. Let's talk about the fear underneath it all. Because that's what this really is, isn't it? Fear. You're afraid that if you stop being everything to everyone, you'll become nothing to anyone. You're afraid that if people see your limitations, they'll see you as less than. You're afraid that rest is the same as quitting. You're afraid that if you're not constantly proving your value, you'll lose your place, your purpose, your worth. But let me ask you this. The people in your life who you love most, the ones whose opinion actually matters, do they love you because you're perfect? Do they love you because you never say no? Do they love you because you never get tired? Or do they love you for who you are, flaws and limits and humanity included? And if they only love you for what you do for them, is that really love at all? Real love doesn't demand perfection. Real love doesn't require you to have no limits. Real love sees your exhaustion and says rest. Real love sees your struggle and says let me help. Real love doesn't measure your worth by your productivity. And if the people in your life can't accept that you're human, if they get angry when you set boundaries, if they withdraw when you can't meet their every need, then the problem isn't your limits. The problem is that they never really saw you as a person. They saw you as a resource. And here's what you need to understand. When you live without boundaries, when you refuse to honor your limits, you're not just hurting yourself. You're teaching people that it's okay to treat you like you're endless. You're showing them that your needs don't matter. You're modeling a way of living that's unsustainable and unhealthy. And if you have children, if you have people who look up to you, you're teaching them that this is what love looks like. That this is what strength looks like. That burning yourself out is noble. But it's not. It's tragic. And the legacy you'll leave won't be how much you did. It'll be the pain in your eyes that your loved ones could see but felt powerless to address because you wouldn't admit you were struggling. It'll be the distance that grew between you and the people who mattered most because you were too busy taking care of everyone else to actually be present with them. It'll be the bitterness that slowly crept in when you kept giving and never felt like it was enough. Accepting your limits isn't giving up. It's growing up. It's the mature, wise recognition that you're one person. One beautiful, valuable, limited person. And that's exactly what God intended. He didn't create you to be a machine. He created you to be His child. And children need rest. Children need help. Children need to play and laugh and live, not just work and serve and sacrifice until they have nothing left. There's a verse that says God's power is made perfect in weakness. Not in your strength. Not in your ability to push through. In your weakness. In your admission that you can't do it all. In your surrender of the illusion of control. When you finally stop trying to be strong enough on your own and let God be strong in you, that's when His power flows. That's when miracles happen. That's when peace comes. You've been so afraid of your weakness that you've been pushing away the very thing that could save you. God's strength. His grace. His rest. You can't receive those things with clenched fists, with a rigid back, with a heart that refuses to admit it needs help. You can only receive them with open hands, with a humble spirit, with the honest confession that you've reached your limit and you need Him now. And when you do that, when you finally let go, something beautiful happens. The burden lifts. Not all at once, maybe. Not completely, perhaps. But enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to feel. Enough to remember what peace feels like. Because peace isn't the absence of challenges. Peace is the presence of God in the middle of your limitations, holding you, strengthening you, whispering that you don't have to be more than you are. You've spent so much time trying to be enough. Enough for your family. Enough for your work. Enough for your friends. Enough for God. But here's what you've missed. You already are enough. Not because you've done enough, but because God says you are. Your enoughness isn't based on your performance. It's based on His love. And His love doesn't increase when you do more or decrease when you do less. It's constant. It's unconditional. It's not dependent on your ability to push past your limits. So why are you still pushing? What are you trying to prove? And to whom? Because if it's to God, He already knows everything about you and loves you completely. If it's to others, the ones who truly love you don't need convincing, and the ones who don't really love you won't be convinced no matter what you do. If it's to yourself, maybe it's time to stop being your own harshest judge and start being your own kindest friend. Peace comes when you accept your limits because acceptance brings you back to reality. Back to truth. Back to the understanding that you're human, and being human is not a flaw to overcome but a gift to embrace. Your limits are not the walls of a prison. They're the boundaries of a garden where God wants to meet you, where He wants to walk with you, where He wants to restore what's been lost in all your striving. Stop running. Stop pushing. Stop pretending. Just for a moment, just for now, be still. Be honest. Be human. And let God love you right where you are, limits and all. There's a moment that comes in every life, a sacred moment, when you realize you have a choice. You can keep living the way you've been living, carrying what you've been carrying, pretending you're fine when you're falling apart. Or you can choose something different. You can choose honesty. You can choose rest. You can choose to finally accept that your limits are not your failure. They're your invitation to a life that's sustainable, a life that's peaceful, a life that's actually worth living. But let me be honest with you. Choosing to accept your limits isn't easy, because it means disappointing people. It means letting go of the image you've worked so hard to maintain. It means admitting that you can't do it all, fix it all, be it all. And for someone who's spent years, maybe decades, being the strong one, the reliable one, the one everyone depends on, that admission feels like death. It feels like failure. It feels like you're letting everyone down. But here's the truth that will set you free. You're already letting people down. You're letting down the most important person. Yourself. You're letting down the person God created you to be by trying to be someone you were never meant to be. You're letting down your own soul by refusing to give it the rest, the care, the gentleness it desperately needs. And in your exhaustion, in your depletion, you're not even able to give your best to the people you love. You're giving them your leftovers. You're giving them whatever's left after you've given everything to everyone else. Is that really what you want? Is that really the legacy you want to leave? Or do you want to be someone who's truly present? Someone who has the energy to really listen when a loved one is hurting? Someone who can laugh without it feeling forced? Someone who can love without resentment building underneath it? Because you can't be that person while you're living beyond your limits. You just can't. The math doesn't work. The human heart wasn't designed to give infinitely without receiving, without resting, without being replenished. So what does it actually look like to accept your limits? It starts with honesty. Radical, uncomfortable honesty. You sit down, maybe with a journal, maybe with a trusted friend, maybe just with God, and you make a list. What are you doing that you don't have the energy for? What are you saying yes to that's draining the life out of you? What responsibilities are you carrying that were never yours to carry? And then, the hardest part, you start letting go. You have a conversation with someone and you say, I can't do this anymore. I need help. Or you resign from that committee that's consuming all your free time. Or you stop answering your phone every time it rings because you finally understand that your peace is more important than being constantly available. Or you tell your adult children that you can't solve their problems for them anymore, that you love them but you have to let them figure some things out on their own. And yes, some people will be upset. Some people will be disappointed. Some people might even get angry. Because they've gotten used to you having no limits. They've gotten comfortable with your endless availability. They've benefited from your inability to say no. But their disappointment is not your responsibility. Their anger is not proof that you're wrong. It's proof that the relationship was unbalanced, that you were giving more than was healthy, and now that you're trying to restore balance, they're resisting because change is uncomfortable. But the people who truly love you, the people whose opinions actually matter, they'll understand. They might be surprised at first. They might need time to adjust. But they'll respect your boundaries because they respect you. They'll support your need for rest because they care about your well-being. They'll adapt because they'd rather have you healthy and present than burned out and distant. If this message has spoken to your heart today, if you feel like God is using these words to call you into a new way of living, I want to ask you one more time to subscribe to this channel and leave a like on this video. Because there are so many people out there who need to hear this. So many souls who are exhausted, who think they're alone in their struggle, who believe the lie that having limits makes them weak. Help me reach them. Help me share this message of hope and freedom with everyone who needs it. Accepting your limits isn't just about saying no. It's about saying yes to the right things. Yes to rest. Yes to joy. Yes to relationships that fill you up instead of drain you. Yes to activities that bring life instead of obligation. Yes to the pace that God designed for you instead of the pace the world demands from you. Yes to being human instead of trying to be superhuman. And when you start living this way, when you start honoring your limits instead of fighting them, something miraculous happens. You start to heal. The exhaustion that's been your constant companion starts to lift. The resentment that's been building in your heart starts to dissolve. The joy that you thought was gone forever starts to return. Not all at once. Healing takes time. But little by little, day by day, you start to feel like yourself again. You start to notice things you haven't noticed in years. The way the morning light comes through your window. The sound of birds singing. The taste of your coffee. The warmth of a hug. The beauty of a sunset. These small, precious moments that make life worth living, they've been there all along. But you were too tired to see them. Too busy to feel them. Too depleted to receive them. But now, with a little more space in your life, a little more rest in your soul, you can receive these gifts again. You also start to discover parts of yourself that got buried under all the doing. Maybe you used to love to read but haven't picked up a book in years. Maybe you used to enjoy gardening but the thought of it just felt like one more thing on your to-do list. Maybe you used to laugh easily but somewhere along the way you forgot how. When you accept your limits and create space in your life, these parts of you start to come back. Not the you that everyone needs you to be. The you that God created you to be. And your faith changes too. It stops being about performance and starts being about relationship. You stop trying to earn God's love and start receiving it. You stop measuring your spirituality by how much you do and start measuring it by how deeply you trust. You learn to pray differently. Not just asking God to give you strength to do more, but asking Him to teach you how to rest. Asking Him to show you what to let go of. Asking Him to help you believe that you're loved even when you're not producing. There's a psalm that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Not be busy and know that I am God. Not prove yourself and know that I am God. Be still. Rest. Stop striving. And in that stillness, in that rest, you'll know Him in a way you never could when you were running. You'll hear His voice in a way you never could when you were drowning in noise and obligation. You'll feel His presence in a way you never could when you were too exhausted to feel anything at all. Peace comes when you accept your limits because acceptance is surrender. And surrender isn't defeat. Surrender is trust. It's saying to God, I can't, but you can. I'm limited, but you're limitless. I'm tired, but you never grow weary. I'm human, but you're divine. And I'm going to stop trying to be what only you can be and start being what you created me to be. Your child. Your beloved. Limited, human, fragile, and infinitely precious to you. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to fix everything that's broken in your life in one day. You don't have to suddenly become perfect at setting boundaries or saying no or taking care of yourself. This is a journey. And like all journeys, it happens one step at a time. So just take one step today. One honest step toward accepting your limits. One brave step toward choosing peace over performance. One faithful step toward trusting that God will take care of what you release. Maybe that step is canceling one commitment that's draining you. Maybe it's asking someone for help instead of pretending you're fine. Maybe it's going to bed early instead of staying up late trying to get one more thing done. Maybe it's just sitting in silence for 5 minutes and letting yourself feel how tired you really are. Whatever that step is, take it. Not tomorrow. Not when things calm down. Now. Today. Because your peace is waiting. And it's been waiting long enough. You are not a machine designed to produce until you break. You are a human being created to love and be loved, to rest and be restored, to give and receive, to work and play, to serve and be served. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to need help. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be human. And in your humanity, in all its beautiful limitation, you are deeply, completely, eternally loved by a God who never asked you to be perfect. He only asked you to be His. So let the weight fall. Let the pretending end. Let the exhaustion be acknowledged. Let the limits be honored. Let the peace come. Not because you've done everything right. Not because you've finally achieved some impossible standard. But simply because you've accepted the truth. You're human. You have limits. And that's exactly how God made you. On purpose. With love. For a reason. Peace is yours. It's been yours all along. You just had to stop running long enough to receive it. Stop now. Breathe deep. And let peace find you right where you are. Tired, limited, human, and home at last in the arms of a God who's been waiting for you to stop carrying the world and let Him carry you. You are enough. You have always been enough. And it's time you finally believed it.